What's up, guys? I'm EJ. I'm joined by Kendall, and thank you so much for checking out this last edition of our virtual NBA Draft War Room. Today, we're talking about the Houston Rockets. Kendall, I think we should be candid with our audience and tell them this is actually a second recording of our Houston Rockets virtual War Room video, because we did an original recording with the rest of the Southwest Division teams, but over the past just really 24 hours, I mean, things have changed so drastically for the Houston Rockets in their situation. So we wanted to have a more up-to-date version. I can't even guarantee that this version will be completely up-to-date, considering like how fast things seem to be moving as we get now less than 24 hours away from the NBA draft. But Kendall, this Rocket situation now a lot different. Now they have the number 16th pick after trading Robert Covington and taking back Trevor Ariza, and considering Harden looks like he's maybe out the door. They're trying desperately to get rid of Westbrook. This is a very fluid situation happening in Houston.
Yeah. Houston Rocket fans, welcome to the draft. Let me introduce you to Anthony Edwards. He's a great player out of Georgia. No, I mean, look, this is definitely an interesting spot because obviously, like you said, we had already recorded a video for the Rockets. It's kind of boring. We're talking about guys that hopefully they can buy a late second round pick maybe to get a guy. And there's still a possibility they can still buy picks and stuff. There still be some second round, late first round guys that they target, but now you're talking about lottery potential guys. So this is a completely different video, and it's fascinating because this team's a completely blank slate at this point. Whatever needs, EJ's gonna have a needs segment, but honestly, we really don't know. We don't know what this roster is gonna look like. So it'll be interesting to see who they target, because it can be literally anybody.
Yeah, I'll be honest. My normal breakdown it's gonna be it's gonna have the free agents and the people, but again, a lot of this, especially in regard to team needs, is gonna be very fluid. So let's break down Houston Rockets. So the Rockets finished with a record of 44-28. They did make it to the playoffs, and they had a hellacious first round matchup with the Thunder that went 7 games. They did come out of that not unscathed, but they did win that series. They went into the Lakers series and were beaten in 5 games by the eventual NBA champions. When it comes to picks, as I said, they came in with none, but after the trade for Robert Covington, trading Robert Covington to Portland, they ended up now with number 16. For team needs, again, this is pre obviously any deal with Harden or Russ, but obviously bigs is a big deal. This is a team that has decided to do something very unique and unorthodox by playing 6'5" PJ Tucker at center. Now that Morey is gone and D'Antoni's gone, obviously Rafael Stone's still from that tree of thinking, but he's brought in probably to be a little bit more conventional than what the Rockets have been doing. So I think that bigs is going to be definitely a team need that they'll have this offseason that they're going to try to address, along with bigs, rim protection in particular. Again, when you consider Robert Covington actually probably one of their better rim protectors, even though he's only about 6'9", and again PJ Tucker playing at center, you're going to need someone to protect the paint a little bit. So I put rim protection in there, and I put that at point guard, because look, no matter what happens with Russell Westbrook, I think to me they're going to need more guys at that position. Austin Rivers really wasn't all that happy last year with his role. It didn't seem like even Russell Westbrook, as we now know, wasn't very happy with his role, considering Harden does so much of the ball handling, and they haven't really developed really any depth at that position for a while, really since they lost Patrick Beverly. So they've been, Eric Gordon's had some minutes at the back of one. They need real point guards on that team. So those are the team needs that I have there. For free agents, I put Tyson Chandler. Obviously, he's a free agent. Davos Cephalosha. I mentioned Austin Rivers. He has a $2 million player option. I mentioned his unhappiness, so there's a chance he may not even pick that up. We'll see what happens. Bruno Capoglo. David Nwaba has a $1 million team option. Then you got DeMar Carroll, Jeff Green, Luke Richard, Umba Mute, Michael Frazier. It's on a 2-way deal, along with William Holler, who's also on a 2-way deal. So Kendall, Rafael Stone really stepped into quite a very unorthodox, very contentious situation, dealing with James Harden, dealing with Russell Westbrook, and dealing now with a new owner who
probably dealing with Tillman Fertitta.
Yeah, and an owner who we know is somewhat of a character in himself, and certainly did not expect to be coming into his first full offseason with the team losing his top two stars. So this is going to be really tough for Stone to navigate. I'm curious how he's going to do it. Kendall, with this 16th pick, and perhaps even if there are trade options that you see to trade up with these picks, what are you looking at for the Rockets when it comes to the draft pick?
Yeah, I mean, look, Fertitta is certainly I wouldn't say he's to blame for all this, but he's he's certainly a very contributing factor. This is the what was the demise of the Houston Rockets team. Um, to me, when I'm looking at this when I'm looking at this 16th pick, obviously, look, this is a team that need a dynamic talent because right now they can draft a player that could be a role player at 16, and there's plenty of guys they can find like that. I think they need to find a guy that could be a future cornerstone kind of piece. And to me, I think that's going to have to be at the point guard position because that's the deepest position in this draft to finding those kind of guys. And the two guys that I would look at are Cole Anthony and RJ Hampton. Both are tremendous swings in terms of in terms of going for a home run kind of player. I think both of them could wind up being all stars in the right if the right things go their way. Both of them could also end up being, or probably more likely to be, marginal players in this league. And so that's the risk that you run. But you're talking about two guys, Anthony, obviously both of them, just were top five guys coming out of high school that kind of found themselves in not the best situation last season. Hampton going overseas. Some may argue had he played and found himself on a New Zealand Breakers team that was not conducive to a young player of his talent, unlike LaMelo Ball, playing for the Illawarra Hawks, where he got to do everything. The Breakers were a veteran team that was trying to win, and so he didn't really get to have the ball in his hands as much. So some would argue had he played college basketball, R.J. Hampton would be in that top 10 discussion. Cole Anthony obviously had injuries that really hampered his season at North Carolina. If you feel like you're getting the Cole Anthony that was a projected top 5 pick coming into the season rather, then which I think is still a possibility given he had so many injuries at North Carolina, then I think that those are two guys that I think you have to take a swing on. I know some people may talk about Jaden McDaniels, who's also another high upside kind of guy, but to me he's not a good enough basketball player right now for me to make that case. I think Hampton's closer to McDaniels and Anthony, but I think both of them still present you guys that could play from day one. But because whoever they're gonna draft is gonna have to be able to play from day one because the team's not gonna be very deep, it seems. So you want somebody that can play from day one and someone that offers you big upside, and to me that's at the point guard position. So I'm looking at Anthony and I'm looking at Hampton.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I gave Anthony. I thought about Anthony a lot as well. To me, that kind of score is probably going to be needed considering the offseason they're going to have. So I think someone like Anthony I can understand. And I get Hampton too because Hampton is, obviously he's really young, he's kind of raw, but again, the guy had the high school reputation of being, a future, maybe all-star caliber guard once he continued to develop. With a guy like him, you put him in that team. We know John Lucas is an excellent player development coach, and he's still on that staff. You hope that
Hampton's a Texas guy as well.
Yes, and he is a Texas boy. So I think Anthony and Hampton would make sense for the Rockets for differing reasons. When it came to for me, and I focused a little bit more on what I talked about with their front court depth being an issue. So I did go big with the first one. So 16, it's his value's up in the air and where he's going to go, and we talked about him a million times. But I would look at Precious Achiuwa for the Houston Rockets at 16. I think that again with all these picks, you're going to be looking for high upside, considering you could be losing a superstar and maybe an all-star point guard. So Precious Achiuwa, I think, is certainly a guy with a high upside. He can absolutely bring you some rim protection. He's an excellent defensive player, and I think that his offensive game is evolving. And I think that honestly, from what I'm seeing in the draft evaluation, I'm seeing from other people, I think that his offensive game is actually being a little bit underrated. Memphis really had Precious playing, really the five for a lot of the season. So some of the things he can do in the perimeter, he didn't really get a chance to show. I think that with another
Yeah,
offseason of development and work on his game, we'll see more of stuff that we didn't see
and
in
yeah,
college in the NBA.
and Precious is very. He's raw. Like he has like the semblance of a guard wing kind of game. That's how he came up out of high school. And so, but he never he was always very out of control, and he was out of control at times in Memphis. I think him playing the big spot may have helped him in some regard because it kind of kept him within his within his boundaries of yeah, you got to play in the paint, like don't do all the dribbling, the jump shooting. But like you're right that there's a path for Precious Achiuwa to be a much better perimeter player than we saw in Memphis. And I think he would tell you, and I mean even when we talked to Cody Topper, their assistant, former uh, Rockets G League assistant as well. He talked about how Precious Achiuwa, first of all, reminds him of the guy he worked with Montrezl Harrell. He talks about how Precious has another layer of his game on the perimeter that we really didn't get a chance to see much of. Um, the one thing I like about Hampton, maybe more than any of these other guys, is that I feel like when you're talking about bringing in one of these guys at 16, if the Rockets can find somebody with an elite skill or that projects with an elite NBA skill or elite NBA trait, then that is somebody you have to look at. And Hampton has the twitchiness, the quick twitch, and the athleticism at the elite at an elite NBA level. And that's twitch is a very important skill when you're evaluating these guys at the next level. And he's got it. It's just his skill set is so raw. Yes, he's got the athleticism. He's got some of the baseline skills to be very good at the college and high school level. But at the NBA level, a lot of his skills are very basic. It's kind of like with Dante Exum had those issues coming out of Australia as well. Aaron Nesmith is another guy that presents an elite skill. He may be there, but the problem is I feel like Nesmith, also Achiuwa is another guy where I feel like those guys need to play with better players early on. I just worry that like Nesmith playing on a scrub team with no point guard, you know, is he really getting the ball in the right spot?
Yeah,
Same with Achiuwa. I'd love Achiuwa to play with a real point guard.
yeah, and that's a fair point. I think the one thing I am considering is Russell Westbrook's contract is looking more and more untradeable. I think that they're going to move hell and high water to get rid of him. But if you told me they went into training camp and he's still there, it wouldn't shock me. So
and that's a much better fit for Precious. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think if he was with Russ, that'd be actually a really good fit for him. So I'm not gonna go completely overboard and say that there's no way either guy's on the roster. So that's why I would and that's also kind of why I went big instead of point guard. I think that there is a chance Russell is still there. What are you gonna say real quick?
I was gonna say, I'm sure a lot of Rocket fans right now they're like, you guys do 5 minutes on Kate Cunningham.
Yeah, that's what they'd want to be looking at. They want to be looking at next year's draft, and then the picks they're trying to stock
and
up.
Look, next year's draft is serious. We'll be doing videos on that probably very soon, and that's next year's draft is a real treat for NBA fans and certainly fans of the Rockets, Hornets, and Knicks.
And then lastly, the only other guy I thought about too, I put Reggie Perry in there as well. Again, another big guy, rugged, throw his body around. I think that he's still a developing player, and I actually think that again, another guy. I like the idea of him getting in the gym with John Lucas and work on his game. I think that he can end up being a really underrated player in this draft.
I mentioned it in our last the original Rockets video that we did. I think Udoka Azubuike is really good, and we really haven't talked about it much on the YouTube channel. But I mean, he's another guy I think is very high upside. Like if you told me Udoka Azubuike is like a top 12 or 13 center in like 2 years, it wouldn't shock me. As crazy as that sounds, because he might not go in the first round. Like he seems like the kind of guy that'll get drafted late first round, early second round. That'll be like starting on a playoff team.
Yeah, and Azubuike to me, he's just a sign of the times. His draft position. This was 2000,
he's just a dinosaur.
Yeah, this was 2011. I mean, he's a top 10 pick maybe. I mean, seriously, the physical specimen numbers and tools that he has, and also real production he had at Kansas. he would definitely would not leave the top 20 in a draft from 10, 15 years ago. It's just
I think a lot of the
game is played now
stuff,
is different.
I think him staying at Kansas as long as he did, it really hurt him because I think like it helped him. I think as a player.
Yeah, it made him better, but
I think it hurt the perception. A lot of people remember him as the big guy as a freshman that had no game. But I mean, the last time I saw Azubuike play, he looked pretty good. So,
yeah.
He looks like he might be an NBA ready player now.
Yeah, Bill Self does a really good job with the bigs over there, and they coach him up really well. And I think seeing Azubuike's growth, I think that he's someone that's being undervalued in this draft as well. But what do you guys think the Houston Rockets should do? Do you think there's a trade-up option? What should they look at if they get into the top 10? Or what do you think they should do at 16? Make sure you leave a comment and like this video if you did enjoy it. And give us a subscribe. The New Generation Media is the channel. Obviously, this wraps our virtual NBA Draft War Room sessions. It's been a long journey. It's been a lot of work. It's been some tireless work. It's definitely the most ambitious thing we've done. But and we had to do an extra one considering we did the Rockets twice. But I'm hoping, 31 videos we've recorded, 30 videos on our channel. I hope you guys enjoyed it, man. We had a lot of fun doing it. We're definitely gonna do plenty of more draft content after the draft and throughout the NBA season, getting ready for next year's draft. And if you follow the channel, you follow the stuff we do. We're not just all sports and NBA draft. We're really big Star Wars fans, really big superhero fans. So we do a podcast every week. New Generation Podcast Network. You can find. New Generation Podcast Network, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, SoundCloud, Stitcher, and TuneIn. You can catch all of those shows on superhero content, sports content, and even Star Wars content. So thank you guys again for checking us out, and really appreciate you guys joining us on this journey through the 30 NBA teams ahead of the 2020 NBA draft. Hope you guys enjoy the draft. Hopefully for you guys, your fans out there, it's not too stressful and your teams don't make too many terrible decisions. Hope you guys end up being happy with what happens. Regardless, thank you guys so much for checking us out. We really appreciate it. For Kendall, I'm EJ. Take it easy, guys. Peace.